This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their taproom in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week, we're talking to Ironmonger Brewing and Viking Alchemist Meadery. I am Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So we've got a very full house. I'm going to try to say everybody's name, and hopefully I get this right. So we've got Don, Robin, and Tamara Kosaris from Viking Alchemist Meadery. Hopefully got that right. And we have Val, Doug, and Tom Larson, and they're with Ironmonger. So I think we got it was 7 people we got.
We
here?
do.
Yeah.
We are below the required limit of 10 people gathering at one
Yeah.
time right now, so we're keeping it safe. We sanitized all our microphones and headphones prior to this. We're elbow bumping and fist bumping.
Yes.
And we are actually all wearing full body hazmat suits right now.
We
you
are,
can't see that, but we're being as safe as you can be right now.
It's great.
Yeah. So, Brian, busy week, crazy week. Y'all,
Insane
Ironmonger,
week. Yeah.
Viking Alchemist, among everything. Viking Alchemist in the process of building out and opening 2 locations, and then they throw a pandemic at you. I bet that's been fun.
Oh, yeah, it's been great. 2 locations at once wasn't dumb enough, so now we have to deal with not opening them, but actually opening them.
Yeah, absolutely. So what craziness. Doug, how's it impacted here at Ironmonger? Because so far you guys have been open up until this point, correct?
Yeah, we've seen some slowdown, but we're taking all the precautions and making sure people understand. For like Axstone, for example, we're spraying the axe handles and making sure that people spread out. And we've had pretty good attendance, not where we were 2 weeks ago, but we're happy with what we're seeing.
And are you going to attempt to stay open until they tell you to shut her down?
Yeah, we're gonna just continue to monitor what's going on, and we're watching television every day and taking the advice of government officials. If they tell us we have to shut down, then we'll do that.
I do believe I saw today that our governor said he is not going to mandate a shutdown. Is that correct, Governor Brian Kemp?
That's what I heard.
So,
yeah, that he's planning on not doing any kind of mandatory shutdowns of bars, breweries, restaurants. So it's going to be up to each of them to do what they want.
Madness, Brian.
She's got the news. I mean,
she did good. We're covering it, man. It's a hot topic.
I didn't know.
Everybody's paying attention here. So, Brian, we got out a little bit this weekend. We did have to keep it safe in the way. A lot of elbow bumping.
A lot of elbow bumping.
But we went down to the south end of Atlanta, actually to Hapeville, to Arches Brewing. And our friends Nappy Roots did a collaboration brew there, Kentucky Mud.
Atlantucky.
That's right. They did do it under Atlantucky
I believe
this time,
so,
which I think is a switch for them because they'd been doing it just as Nappy Roots, but Atlantucky is their gypsy brewery, I think, for lack of a better term at this point.
Basically, yeah.
So, and we'll probably, from what they tell us, I think some of the news is not releasable at this point, but I think we're going to see more from Atlantucky in the future.
I suspect they're always very active, and they're always scheming and thinking of something, Tim. Always.
Yes, they did. So, and Brian, one of the craziest St. Patrick's Days in forever. I think the first time in about 30 years that I didn't go out for Guinness, green beer, and corned beef. I didn't make it. Did you do anything?
So I had to run out, and I had actually run out of bread, which is funny, despite everybody else hoarding it. I'm like, I should go out and buy a loaf of bread, and amazingly enough, I found some, and I'm like, while I was out there, I'm like, hey, it's St. Patty's Day. I should at least get a Guinness. So I got some Guinness and drank some Guinness that night.
Did you have to fight for the loaf of bread?
There were people in the grocery store. It wasn't very packed, but that aisle had more people in it than it should have for too little bread. I'm like, what are you guys doing in here? So I bought the one loaf. I felt normal. I bought a loaf of bread that I will need
like a human person.
Yes, for the week coming, I will need this loaf of bread, not 23, just one. So that
you
was
don't
nice.
know that. It could change where you're going to need a ton of bread and toilet paper.
I might
apparently.
need a ton of toast points, and that might be what I have to do
That's
to fight
it.
off the zombies is stab them with toast
With
points.
toast.
And if that's the case, then I'm in a bad spot.
Tactical toast, if
Tactical
you will. Brian.
toast, yeah, extra toasty, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know what else I did? I actually got my green beer. I was in the office, and they had a party planned, but because things changed, most people didn't show up. They were smart; they didn't go in.
Good
I went
idea.
in, and they had some beer for a party that they were going to have, and they had green coloring for it. It was the wrong kind of coloring. It was some sort of a gel coloring, which is wrong, and so it tasted
Amateurs.
terrible, and people were basically having weird green mouths all day. It was just it was gross. So.
You know, I did see a couple breweries did because the green beers are always people get grief for doing the green
Yes.
beers. And I've always been one, if you want to be a little crazy on St. Patrick's Day and have a green beer, you should have the right to do that. And I always do every chance I get. But a couple places did sours that were like green apple or a Kool-Aid type of sour, those are cool. So you can get away with doing your green beers if you do it.
Berliner
like
with
that.
Mitch Schuss with the Waldorf syrup.
Waldmeister,
Yeah,
Waldorf,
Waldmeister, yeah. With that, I think that's always an acceptable green
Right.
beer. So.
Doug, was there any green beer on tap here at Ironmonger?
No green beer, but we've got Celtic Cross.
Yeah,
And you
we're
guys have
sipping
had-
that right now, actually, yes.
Yeah, it's a barrel-aged beer. It's only 4.5 ABV, but I tell you, it's one of my favorite beers we've produced in a while.
Dry Irish Stout, whiskey barrel-aged, correct?
I think that's right, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tasty beer.
Well, that makes me think that it's time for the beers of the week then, Tim.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we've got a great list. As we've mentioned, we're sipping right now the Ironmonger Celtic Cross. Very good stuff there. We did a pregame more experience with the non-alcoholic beers. We have the Brooklyn. What's that one called, Brian?
Special effects. Yeah, the non-hoppy lager brew. Or
But it's
like
called
that,
a
yeah.
hoppy lager, right?
Yeah.
Is that what they? I didn't get a lot of hops in it. I got mostly malt. Not
Yeah.
bad, fairly tasty, but I didn't get a lot. And I know that I see several meads over there from our friends at Viking Alchemist, and so we're going to get into some mead. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And Brian, I think you brought a little Kentucky mud here.
I did, yes.
For us to get into, right? So we're gonna do all of that. So Brian, I think I know what some of the topics are going to be this week, but what's happening in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
I'm sure I'm going to surprise you that the COVID-19/coronavirus did show up a little bit in the news. I mean, you know, there were a few stories. Well, I mean, I'm kidding.
All of them?
All of them.
All of
Every
them.
single
Sure.
story was. The one big thing I kept seeing was a theme that craft breweries are adapting to this situation in creative ways. As of this moment, bars, restaurants, and tap rooms have been closed in at least 20 states, and there are many voluntary closures in places where a closure isn't required by law or anything like that. So with as much as 40% of the average brewery's volume flowing through their tap rooms these days, that's a real problem. To combat this, breweries are turning to things like to-go beer models and online ordering, and others are taking it a step further with curbside beer pickup, and in some cases, like Bissell Brothers up in Portland, Maine, and Little Beast in Portland, Oregon, the two Portlands, see how I got that? They're doing home delivery of beer, so...
Home delivery.
Yeah,
Bring
right?
it to my house, man.
If only we were so evolved that we could do that here.
Never.
States like New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut have been loosening restrictions on the sale of beverages from on-premise accounts, so they're making these progressive changes a little bit more easy, a little more possible from places where they weren't before. Other breweries are looking to do things like gift cards and GoFundMes to help weather the storm. So all this is to say there's a growing number of ways that you can safely support your local craft brewer and get fresh beer at the same time, and we really hope you do that.
Absolutely. And I want to throw out there, Brian, that we had Bottle Share on here a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. Christopher Glenn, that's the executive director of the Bottle Share. Bottle Share supports the craft beverage industry, and they are currently fundraising right now, nationwide charity that they're going to take care of the people there. And Scofflaw Brewing, if you go to Scofflaw Brewing's Facebook page, they have, I forget the name of it, but it's a matching donation thing. They got a fancy name for the group, but they'll match up to the first $10,000 in donations there. And so go there, make a donation to Bottle Share. If you want to help your brewers out there and others in the craft beverage industry, that's a great way to do it.
Doubling your money to help
Absolutely.
others. Yeah.
Help it out. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break. But we'll be back very soon to talk with Ironmonger Brewing and Viking Alchemist Meadery. Brian and Tim, the beer guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the beer guys sent you.
Is your brewery or restaurant flooring all jacked up? Your foundation needs to be protected from heat, chemicals, and other contaminants. At the same time, you want to make sure it's slip resistant and you can clean up your messes with soap and water. You know who to call?
ResTech.
We've been manufacturing poured-in-place flooring since 2002, and we've got solutions to fit any facility's needs. Go on and visit our website at
ResTech.net.
That's RES-TEK.net. Drop us a line and we will come to you for a free evaluation.
Oh, yeah. Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Oh, God, here we go again. Dork alert.
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to our talk with Ironmonger Brewing and Viking Alchemist Meadery.
Mead and beer, Brian, two delicious alcoholic beverages here.
Yeah, so
we're having
all
that
together in one show. It's
I
crazy.
want to say something here. The way this all got together, that we're all here together today to talk about this, is we're celebrating our neck of the woods, Brian. So for our listeners around the country, we want you to all come visit us here in Cobb County, Georgia. And this month, March, is Cobb Bubbles and Brews month, and they're celebrating all the craft beverage makers here in Cobb County, Georgia. And for those that don't know it, we have brewers here. We have mead makers here. We have a distillery here. We've got a variety of pubs and restaurants and bars. Ironmonger, I believe, is the closest brewery to the Battery where the Braves play once you leave out of there. Terrapin has a tap room.
They got a tap room there, yeah.
But if you're outside, if you don't feel like going into the crazy complex there, Ironmonger is going to be the closest brewery to that. And so you can come out, enjoy some of this, maybe catch a Braves game, come hit the tap room. And we're going to talk about it more, but you can throw some axes here at Ironmonger, do all kinds of stuff. And something really cool right here within the same complex is Beer Guys Radio, Ironmonger Brewing, and very, very soon, Viking Alchemist Meadery. So Cobb County, and especially right here where we are, the Ironmonger experience, all of those things fall under the umbrella of the Ironmonger experience.
Now I see why we put all this together. Now it makes sense.
It's all coming together now.
And if people listen closely, they might actually hear the thump of an axe hitting a board.
They could.
It's possible.
It might be
Listen
there.
close.
So Val, I think Cobb Bubbles and Brew, beverage month here at Ironmonger. What have you guys done kind of to celebrate that this month?
Yeah, so they had a deal where they wanted to, each brewery or cidery or whatever on the route was going to put on a event in their facility. Now with the coronavirus, I think a lot of those have been canceled. We did have ours on St. Pat's Day. It was a nice little quiet turnout, but they came out and supported us. And people got a stamp on a little passport that they visit each facility and they get a couple of stamps and turn it in to win prizes, T-shirts, koozies, things of that nature.
That's because if it wasn't for this stinking global pandemic, this was actually a really cool event that Cobb County, the Tourism Bureau, put together. And if you've listened to the show, they actually they're one of our sponsors. We've been advertising the events all this month. But like you said, get your passport, go around, try all the beverages here.
Absolutely.
Get stamps, enter to win prizes, right?
They're actually extending the deadline for it.
Right.
I just got an email from Cobb Tourism, and they're extending the deadline for collecting the stamps and things like that. And I think they're hoping that if things clear up, that those that had to cancel their events, they're able to reschedule them for April. So I think it sounds like they're going to maybe extend the Bubbles and Brew instead of just being March. They might do March and April.
Gotcha.
Luckily, we
Probably
did
a good idea.
ours the first
Yes.
weekend. So
Yeah, you got it before the pandemic
Yeah,
set in, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, you know what? If you're listening, you're not from Georgia, maybe mark the calendar when things get a little less crazy
That's
and
right.
a less infectious. Come
When
see
your
us.
business meeting that was rescheduled for April comes around, you can remember this and then
Keep
swing
it in
by.
mind.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind. It'll be a good time. So, Ironmonger Brewing, y'all, we've been partners with you here for a long time. We've seen a lot of growth, a lot of changes here, a lot of things that have gone on. You've made a lot of changes to the tap room and the brewery. That's Doug, you'd mentioned earlier, the Ironmonger experience. So, what is new here at Ironmonger, and what is the Ironmonger experience?
Well, we're excited about bringing our partners on Viking Alchemist. Axstone has been just a huge success for us. We've got 20 beers, always on tap, all different types of beer, barrel-aged beers all the way down to easy drinking beers. We're also looking at continue to expand this experience to have food available all the time. We're looking at trying to bring on more crafters, whether it's spirits, it could be, bourbon, vodka, cider. We kind of want to have everything. So people come here and they can experience everything, craft. And that's our vision. We're probably about halfway there. So we're excited about, the rest of the year. This has been an unfortunate kind of pause that we're on right now. But we've got a lot of things in the works. And hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, you'll see some more come to light here.
Who's better at throwing axes, you or Val? Who's the better axe thrower?
I'm going to say I am.
You are? Okay.
Are you?
You get that
Okay.
one, huh? Do you agree with that, Val? Is he the better axe thrower?
I will say yes, he is. Now, I've
Okay.
only done it twice.
Okay,
The
sure.
first time I did it, it took me probably 20 to 30 times before I hit the target. But when I did, it was a bullseye.
See,
Nicely
there you
done.
go.
Yeah.
That's it.
My aim is good. My technique, not so much.
I'm just
People
glad
don't
you,
realize there's technique involved.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's
sure.
a lot. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't ask that question between Tom and I. Because
Okay, Tom,
that
are
would
you
be-
the champion over there?
The reality is this. I'm the better axe thrower.
Okay.
But we also have the large ring as part of the Ironmonger.
Right.
We have the large
Yes.
ring.
Okay.
And I'm like Val, 20 throws and maybe. Doug, 1 out of 2 every time.
Nail it, huh? See,
Seriously,
that's-
Doug has this weird Zen thing going on with that ring. I saw it.
right.
It's kind of weird. It's-
Everybody's got their talents, right? So do what you can. Brian and I finally made it over to the axe throwing a couple weeks ago, and it's something we'd meant to try out for quite a while. And I'm going to admit, I think throwing axes sounds fun. I mean, just the concept of it, but I actually had a lot more fun with that. It's a lot of fun to throw that axe, and once you learn the technique and you start sticking it, it's really satisfying. To hit a bull, or you don't even have to get a bullseye. You stick that axe and you feel
You get a stick in
you
the
know
wall.
What? As
Yeah.
a wild man lumberjack, Brian, that's what
That's
I
right.
was. Throwing axes and sticking them in targets.
So when I did it, I felt like I finally had arrived. I mean, I looked the part. And I finally
You
have
did. You finally
delivered
earned
on
your beard there.
I
right?
thought it was interesting that foot placement was very important, and I was thinking more in terms of avoiding having them chopped off. But no, like if you didn't step right, if you weren't lined up right, it just would bounce off or wouldn't work. But when it hits right, it's quite satisfying.
the right number of
Quite
steps, the
satisfying.
right angle, the right
Yeah.
release, the right spin. There's a lot that
Yeah.
goes into it there. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim, we have professional coaches on staff here. Not only they take you through all the safety that's required, but they do teach you technique. And I tell you, I've watched people come in, never thrown an axe before, and when they start sticking it, the excitement goes up. It's unbelievable.
It's competitive. If you
Very
go over there
good.
with the buddy, you're going to compete. It was just, I think it was Brian and I and Zach, our sound guy.
Yep.
We're over there, and we were cheering each other and egging each other on. Just there. So, but it's a lot of fun. You should definitely give it a shot. But Doug, another change here. I think the last time we spoke to Ironmonger, maybe a year or so ago, Sarah was your brewer at the time. Sarah has since moved on. I believe her family moved out west or somewhere. She just moved on. And you have a new brewer here now. So can you tell us kind of about, is there a new direction for Ironmonger, new beers, or is it the same Ironmonger, or are we looking at something new here?
Well, Jonathan Anderson is our new brewmaster. He's got 20-something years experience. He's taken all the best recipes that Sarah brought to us, and he's expanded on them. And one thing that we've learned from bringing an axe throwing, you're bringing in a lot of people that are just the normal public, if you will, because we have our beers for our craft folks. We have the barrel aged beers, the stouts, the IPAs, all the good stuff. and we've got 20 on tap at any one time. We're trying to do about 5 that are easy drinking beers. So the folks that aren't looking for the craft beer, they're coming in and asking for, non-craft beer. We say, no, we got this one here. So we've got a couple of those up on tap now, but we're also got a seltzer.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we've got some now, non-alcoholic, varieties as well. So we're trying to have it for everybody, because the Axstone crowd is just anybody that walks off the street and wants something new.
Diverse crowd there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked last week, we kind of poked a little fun at craft seltzer, where that it's so different than beer. But, every brewer we know that makes it has said the same thing. You get a different, diverse crowd in your tap room. They want something to drink. Not everybody wants to drink beer. And especially if you do have something like an axe throwing range that's bringing people in. So we may not like it, but we'll allow it, Doug. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Ironmonger Brewing and Viking Alchemist Meadery.
As beer lovers, we know real beer, and Athletic Brewing makes non-alcoholic beer that stands shoulder to shoulder with full-strength craft beer. With a fraction of the calories and certified organic, it's a great beer to enjoy anytime. Check out Athletic's selection of IPAs, golden ales, stouts, and more at athleticbrewing.com. Use code BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order, and U.S. customers get free nationwide shipping. Athletic Brewing, brew without compromise.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, KBDB HD3 96.7 FM in Forks, Washington. Catch Beer Guys Radio on KBDB every Saturday at 2 p.m. local time. And now let's get back to our talk with Ironmonger Brewery and Viking Alchemist Meadery.
Brian, if I'm not mistaken, Forks, Washington is extreme northwest Washington. Is that right?
Yeah, on the Sound or something like that.
I believe that KBDB actually took us as Beer Guys Radio International.
Initially, yes.
Because the signal actually reaches a little bit of Vancouver Island. So
I believe it does.
If you're on the tip of Vancouver Island listening to us on KBDB, welcome.
You should shout us out. Let us know that you're doing
Let us know.
We want to hear about it.
Well, back to beer and mead talk here. We're currently sipping a really cool collaboration with Ironmonger and Rugby ATL. And I guess rugby is it's picking up speed here in the States. Atlanta's got a team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tom, their stadium is not far from here at Life University.
Life University. It's an amazing thing. Life University has won something to the effect of 10 of the last 11 championships in college.
Okay.
Rugby.
All right.
And so the stadium is world class. And Rugby ATL has been around. This is their inaugural season. Professional rugby has been around 3 years. And so we were very fortunate. So we have a partnership, and we created an amazing Vienna lager for them. If you think about the rugby crowd and the players, I always say it's the nicest way. Rugby players are like studs. They came to our brewery.
Tough guys.
And it's like, I feel bad. It's like, man, that guy's like perfect. And you just think about it because they're just designing rugby is just a tough, gritty sport. And they threw the axes, and so we had to make a beer that really kind of represented the rugby player. And our Jonathan that Doug was talking about created this Vienna lager. It's a 5.6 ABV. And what separates it is kind of those floral notes you might be picking up. There's some herbs and floral notes that are coming out of the hops that are absolutely fantastic. It gives it that very smooth, but kind of, you smell the effervescence, it's fabulous. So
I'm enjoying it. It's tasty.
So we've partnered with them. The players come and they get this is kind of their homegrown. They play the acoustic guitar and entertain our patrons. But beyond that is, we're now extending this new Vienna lager to Marlowe's. And so we'll be in the Georgia-based Marlowe's here the first week of April. And of course, we'll be selling at the stadiums, and we do our official launch in Georgia next week.
And Marlowe's is a chain of taverns here in Georgia.
Chain
correct?
of taverns,
good popular
kind of,
tavern chain.
Yeah, between tavern and sports bar, they're
sure.
fabulous.
Food's good there too.
Yeah.
So get you an ATL rugby lager, something to eat, have a good time.
Those rugby players are so tough. They even have muscular earlobes. Have you ever checked that out, Tim?
I have not. Are you
Yeah.
sure it's not cauliflower ear, brother?
I'm going to go with muscular
So-
earlobes. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say that. If you've been a Beer Guys radio listener for a couple of years, my original co-host Aaron Williams Aaron,
R.I.P.
I'm calling you
it's
out
not
here,
dead.
Aaron. Aaron's a softie, man, but he used to be a rugby player back in the day, and it surprises me because Aaron he's a little soft and tender fella.
He is soft and tender fellow.
But he was a rugby player back in the day, and that. So.
That's an exciting sport. I've watched it, and it doesn't stop like. Well, I equate it a little bit with American football, which stops all the time, but rugby just keeps going.
Keep going. It
It's
looks like a
exciting.
sport that there should be a lot more death and dismemberment in than there actually is.
More blood.
So, yeah. But the 4-packs, are they out in distro, or do you got to come here to the brewery to get them? Or
So we launch next week.
Okay.
National's our distributor, and they'll start getting the total wines and the hop cities of the world. Start selling at the stadium, Life University, but you can always buy them here at our tap room, here at Ironmonger, here at this destination.
Come
we talk
see
so
us.
much
Come
about.
on out. Right.
Again, our number one selling on the go is Rugby ATL Vienna Lager.
And you know what? Flights are extremely cheap right now. So if you're listening in Forks,
That's right.
it's going to take you nothing to get to Atlanta.
$25 to fly here, probably
Make
round
sure,
trip.
Make sure to social distance on the plane.
That's right.
And we keep good social distance, but again,
That's right.
amazing beer. But for this discussion, the Vienna Lagers, it's really special.
It's a good beer. And you know what? If you do fly in from Forks, tell them here at Ironmonger Brewing that you flew in on the suggestion of Beer Guys Radio and show them your ticket stub, and we'll personally buy your first pour and a 4-pack to go.
I will buy them a 4-pack.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Sure enough. So it's good. It'll be good stuff. Good stuff. Mead. You still with us there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Do you support any rugby teams or sports teams?
Not yet, but we'd like to.
Okay, soon, right? But
it seems like they would be drawn to Mead because it's berserker juice, right? I mean, that's what makes you go as a Viking.
I think a great mead for rugby might have blood orange in it.
Yeah, I like
think
this
so.
idea.
That's it.
Do you have a blood orange mead yet?
We do not yet. Maybe
we have a blood orange cider.
Oh, we do.
Yeah,
it's cider, but you need the mead.
Now you know
it's a
what?
sizer though, so
So you got it there, right? Robin, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to imagine that most people listening probably know what a mead is, but we may have a handful that do not know what a mead is. So, in its simplest form, what the heck is mead?
Mead is honey, water, and yeast. It's a very simple drink. It's probably the earliest known drink, and it's the only one I'm aware of that could actually happen naturally, which is probably why it's the earliest one.
A little bit of honey setting out, gets a little water and wild yeast in it, and boom, you got you some mead going, right?
Exactly. So maybe somebody had a crock of mead or some honey out there, and water got into it, a little wild yeast, and I don't know what happened to the honey, but it's pretty darn good.
It worked out well. And Tamara, you were mentioning cider or sizer, which is basically a mead where the liquid is apple juice instead of water, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So bring that character to it. And way too many for us to all dive into today, but there's a lot of different variants. Is it piment, did you say, is with grape juice?
Grape juice. That's a grape juice and honey would be a piment. Rhodamel, which is using roses, and Coffeemel using coffee.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, we've played around with some coffees with some local roasters, doing some coffee meads. There's a bunch.
There's a very nice Middle Eastern restaurant very close to Ironmonger, the Jerusalem Bakery Cafe, that we go to a fairly good bit. And they do Turkish Delight that they sell there in their little grocery store. And they do a rose water or a rose petal.
Rose petals, yeah.
Turkish Delight. And I imagine there's a lot of people that in the States that probably have not eaten or consumed roses. But it's a pretty interesting thing to add to food. I was going to say beverage or food.
That is nearly a salad. The amount of rose petal that's on that kind of, I think,
does it count as a
technically
salad?
Makes it a salad.
So it's healthy.
And if you poured water
go.
on it, it would be technically a Groot.
I think the interesting thing about mead that maybe sets it apart from the others is that beer, wine, cider really grab a lot of character from their underlying sugar source, whereas honey really plays nicely with others. And something we found is that whatever honey, like we use Georgia wildflower, because we found that it's just excellent. We've gone to international competitions, poured our mead, and had people come back and ask where we got our honey from. Douglasville. Yeah, Sweetwater County Farm. We're a 100% Georgia honey, and it's distinctive. But they also have, we've tried other varietals. And what's interesting is that when you ferment it, a lot of the aroma and flavor tends to kind of go away, but the character remains. So if you made, say, a traditional with just honey, water, and yeast with 3 or 4 different varietals, you would get different feels from each one of those. And then if you then took those to the next step, say if we made our skull, our dark sweet cherry, with different background meads, different varietals that started out, you'd get different feels for each one of them. So the honey has a kind of an underlying power to it, but it doesn't overbear anything.
Now I imagine talking about mead, just like beer, things are trending. And Tom, we were talking there on the break about lagers and, pilsners and lagers and that being cool again for certain people. Mead, what is the trend in meads right now?
Sessions.
Session meads are the
crushable
thing,
meads.
Okay.
Yeah, canning them. So our line of sessions we've had in-house for about 2 years now. And we're going to be launching our session meads coming up here. So our standard strength meads are about 11-12%. So our sessions are going to be 5 or 6%. A little bit, more fun, a lot more playing with the flavors and stuff like that. The blood orange kind of stuff. And like one of them is called Lone Star. It's blueberry and raspberry together. So just something a little bit more fun, lower ABV so you can take it to the beach with you and, crush a can.
Now, did you say those were carbonated or not?
Some of them are carbonated. Yeah. So some of them, we've kind of tested them out in our tasting room to see what works better. So we've done some carbonation, some not carbonated. So we're going with that, whatever the crowd is happy with.
Cool. It's fun seeing all this stuff, Brian. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we're going to be back very soon, Brian, and we're going to suggest milkshake meads.
Okay. Yes, we should.
Cobb County, Georgia is home to a dozen breweries and distilleries. This March, Cobb Travel and Tourism brings you Bubbles Brews, a month-long celebration of the county's diverse and talented craft beverage makers. Grab your Brew Pass passport, visit the makers, get stamped, and win sweet prizes. And don't forget to go online and vote for your favorites. Support the local craft beverage community and explore all 12 locations throughout the month of March. Tap into Cobb and get more info at bubblesandbrews.com.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Shake it back! Woo!
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag, commercial-free episodes, and even bonus episodes that aren't available anywhere else. Now let's get back to Ironmonger Brewery and Viking Alchemist Meadery.
I did tease before we went out that I'm gonna harass Robin about ridiculous mead ideas here in a minute.
Yes.
But before we move on to that, Tom, I noticed the graphics here on this Rugby ATL beer seemed a little different than some of the other Ironmonger brews. So is that Rugby ATL? Is that their logo there?
It is. So the work was done by Anthem Creative Agency, and Anthem is the agency on record with Rugby ATL. They designed the original logo and really did, what in my opinion, a brilliant job of translating Rugby ATL, the logo from the team, into a craft beer, into this Vienna lager we talked about earlier. So their team, I think, has just been spectacular. And to be honest, as I said, this is going to Marlowe's here in 2 weeks. It's partly because the beer's amazing, but Rugby ATL is really cool, and now we've brought to life through Anthem's graphics.
Rugby, and you know what? We're hoping the rugby season gets going again here
Yes.
soon, because like all other pro sports, they're on hiatus right now while we see what's going on. But I did see, it says so right here, Tom, on this can, that this is a limited edition can. So if you like LE beers,
or LE beer
or
cans.
LE cans. Actually, you do know someone that likes LE
I
Georgia
do,
beer
actually.
cans,
I will
don't
have
you?
to hang on to
Yeah.
a few of the empties.
Yeah, so this will be in the Whole Foods and the Total Wines and the Hop Cities of the
Cool.
world here
All right.
next week, starting next week. And I think you're right. It's a great pickup. We had to put in the back to 2020 limited edition because it is inaugural season. And I too are feeling, why would I drink if I can put it on the shelf and just be so proud to show off that I
Just
own
see
this?
it right there.
It's that great of graphics that Anthem has done.
And like most cities, Atlanta's proud of their teams. You know, they're going to support it. And you know what? Nothing goes together like watching sports and having a beer. So, you know, if you've got one that celebrates the two together, rock on with it. Right, Brian?
That's right. I agree.
Yeah, well, I think I brushed on this earlier, but I don't believe, and I do apologize that I gave you time to expand on it. You've got a lot. You've got two locations. You're moving out of one location that I believe you opened under the old Georgia beer laws, which was not so much about your tap room and visiting, but about producing and distributing out, correct?
Well, we're a winery, so we're not under the beer laws.
Okay, winery.
Farm winery specifically. So we've actually always had the privileges that the beer guys got with SB 85. We've been in 1,500 square feet since our beginning, and it seemed like it was pretty huge when there was nothing in it. And it didn't take long for it to fill up, but it took forever for us to be able to find a new home. We finally did, middle of last year, signed a lease in August for this really nice 4,400 square feet in Smyrna. And we actually opened up production there beginning of the year, and we're going to have a big grand opening party April 4th. So now we will just have a...
opening.
We're open. We'll throw the party later, right?
We'll just flip on the open light and see what happens. But
party later. Come see
exactly.
us.
Well, instead of a grand opening day, we'll have a grand opening month, and just kind of move along and see how things progress.
We will definitely have a party, though.
Oh, there will be a party.
Because it also coincides with our 4th anniversary.
Okay.
So the grand opening was going to be our grand opening plus our
Right.
4th anniversary party, which we, of course, do a bunch of releases and stuff like that.
And I think once we get through all this pandemic stuff, that the party is just going to be that much more sweet.
Absolutely.
To throw the party.
Yeah, and then while we were doing that, I met Doug, and we were talking about various things, and they came up with the Ironmonger experience, and we were all on board with that. I think it's a great idea. We have already essentially built out the tap room that's adjoining their tap room.
The Iron Viking.
The Iron Viking. Yes, that's what we're calling it, the Iron Viking. Now it's just a matter of getting through licensing, and as soon as that's all in place, we're going to open the doors.
So you can drink beer, throw axes,
mead,
drink
axe
mead.
throwing. And like Doug was telling us earlier, with the experience, there is more opportunity here. So if you have a distillery that you're looking to expand, or maybe you want to offer some grub to people throwing axes and drinking beer and that, give the Ironmonger guy, you know what, drop us a line. We'll put you in touch with them. We'll make it happen. We'll make the experience here even better. And we'll report every bit of it, Brian.
That's right. That's right. You know, you teased earlier the milkshake mead.
Yes.
I'm curious about, is that something you guys have tried? And what other interesting things have you done with mead that are a little outside of the normal, like, frame of honey and alcohol?
We have we have a list of things that we want to try. First of all,
well, that's good.
Our 1,500 square foot facility that was not only our tap room but also our production facility kind of limited that just out of sheer frustration. So moving to the new facility is going to make a huge difference in the list of things that we want to try and do.
Where you still managed to fill 18 taps, though.
Yeah, still get it going, right?
Yeah. So we're definitely going to focus on a bunch of the ideas that we have. Yes, the milkshake meads and stuff like that, I think is a really cool idea, using some of the lactose stuff and kind of like the deeper flavors of the
mega fruited smoothie meads and all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that group of people that want it. I mean, a lot of our stuff kind of tends towards the drier side, or maybe the tarts and stuff like that. That's just our personal palate kind of leans towards that. But of course, there's a crowd that wants the kind of like super fruit forward and dessert type thing.
With me, I can appreciate the flavors in those. And there's a brew pub up north of Atlanta called Cherry Street that I love. They make delicious beers. And they did like an orange cream beer a while back, and I forget. I think it's called like maybe orange cream.
I think it was like
cream
creamsicle or something like that. Yeah.
But I went up there and I drank it.
Push
I'm like,
pop.
wow, this is push pop.
Push
It was
pop,
push
yeah.
pop.
And I'm like, this is delicious. I love this. This is delicious. And I got another one and I'm drinking it. I'm like, wow, this is just so orangey and creamy and this and that. But I came to this realization that I couldn't taste a speck of beer in it, that I was drinking an orange creamsicle.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know what? I really appreciate this as a dessert, as candy or something like that. But I really like my beer. I want to know my beer is a beer. I want to know my mead is a mead.
Yeah.
And I can still appreciate, some of these crazy smoothie ones and say this is tasty, but I really like the beer to show that the beer is there. And if you can marry the two, whether it's in your mead or your beer, and I'm like, this is a really good, I want to know the quality of the product that's behind it.
Yeah.
Good example is our root beer. Okay,
Yeah.
We make a root beer mead, but it's really not root beer. We have a technique, we cook the honey to caramelize it some, and we have some other things that we do to essentially making a root beer mead. It's not going to compete with whatever root beer you happen to like, Barks or whatever.
IBC.
IBC, there you go.
There we go.
It's nobody's going to mistake it for a root beer, but it's a good root beer mead.
It's a root beer reminiscent. It gives you the idea that it's a root beer, but you're still looking at it going, oh, it's definitely mead.
That sounds super interesting.
It does.
It really does. Yeah.
Well, the process of cooking the honey, I've not heard of that before. I didn't realize that was
The
a thing.
bochet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you say that as though it's a thing. It reminds
is
me
a
of a
thing.
movie. Well, obviously it's a thing.
In the
Because you don't know
community.
about it
Bobby
doesn't
Bochet?
mean it's not a thing. Right.
I have
Bobby
found that most
Bochet.
things I don't know about are not a thing until I know about them.
That's
been
true.
my
That's
observation.
how that
the way it
works?
goes,
Yes,
right?
that's how that works.
Well, and really, Robin, as we're talking about this, we talked about Bochet and we talked about Pyment, we talked about Sizer. There's so much more to it, right? There's just, for people who know mead, and on the surface, you may know a mead, you may know a fruited mead, but all the different stuff, there's really, just like beer with all the different styles we've got here, there's a ton of different styles that you can do with honey, right?
I think that's the most important thing to really get out there is that, I mean, you walk into a brewery and you try one beer, do you stop? Do you stop and leave?
I don't.
Most
So,
people
yeah.
aren't going to because they're like,
Right.
oh, there's probably something else I'll like.
Sure.
So I think one of the biggest things we hear is, oh, I've tried mead before years ago and I didn't like it. But there's, hundreds of types of meads. Even like as a meadery, we have a certain kind of style that we end up doing. But you go to another meadery and they could also make a cherry mead, but it'll be completely different than the one that we make.
Right.
So while you may love ours, you might not like theirs as much, or vice versa. So just because you tried it somewhere doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I mean, and that's like every craft, when you go to a cidery or something like that, you try them all.
Even the highest rated beers, meads, or whatever, someone is going to be a hater.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I know this is hard to believe that there's people that don't like us. There's people that don't like beer
Say
guys
what?
rated. Right?
I don't even believe it.
I don't
Tim
understand.
keeps telling me this. I'm like,
Heretics.
no, this is not
Yes.
impossible.
I don't understand the
Impossible.
question.
But you'll get people out there
That's
that
right.
even if this beer is rated 4.99 is the greatest beer in the world, a great example of that is Westy 12, Westvleteren 12, which is
Westvleteren, yes.
is supposed to be the greatest beer in the world, and there's still people who are like, that's overrated.
Objectively,
that's
a great beer.
Objectively,
if somebody comes in and they try our flights, it's 5 flavors on a flight. We have 3 flights typically. If they come away and saying, I like this one, I'm happy.
That's it. Find one you like and you're good to go. That's why there's so many different to try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Come out here to Cobb County, Georgia. Come see us. You know what? Be safe about it. We'd love you to come any while, but we understand things are crazy right now, Brian. But keep us in mind. Come here for the Ironmonger experience. Throw some axes, have a beer, have a mead.
Come here wearing your hazmat suit. It'll
That's
be
it.
fine.
You do what you got to
Yeah.
do. But anyhow, y'all, thank you so much. And check out these breweries, these meaderies, and see what's going on. And that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Next week, Brian, we don't know what's going on.
I have no idea.
Because
Yeah.
we have had a cancellation to
we
a
have,
guest
yeah.
due to all the crazy circumstances here. But we will bring you something great. We promise it. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a great week. Stay safe. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers.